It was Alan.
Come on,
Okay.
Alan.
No. Okay, what would be like, let's see.
Do not disturb.
Oh, I see one. Do not
Click that.
Hope Alan's okay with that. He might come running up here thinking I'm dying. Okay. I did send him a message, but well, what the heck? Where are you?
Come back.
Where are you? Here you are.
Where are you? Do you know where your mother is?
Are you my mother? Okay. I love that book. All right.
Okay, so I am super excited to force you to do this with me today.
Seems to be par for the course in the last 12 months, but that's okay.
I think I'm kind of excited though if I can figure out this whole recording Zooms from afar, because that just opens up a whole world of possibilities of things that I can get people to try to do with me.
That would be really neat because you could get a hold of like your friends and I mean, the things that you do in your videos. That makes sense, huh?
Yeah, that would be neat. So okay. I figured what I really wanted to do this month, just I guess for a couple reasons. One, because our homeschool year is practically over, so I have like no content for my YouTube channel. And then two, because it's Mother's Day, so that's the topic. And I feel like, I know that I could make videos that would get views and people would watch, but I'd much rather do something where we can connect. And I feel like while I'm so thankful that people like watching our channel and they find it useful in different things, but we've had so many people come and join the collective. So we're like studying scripture and digging in. We're going to do the biblical womanhood. We're doing a new biblical womanhood this summer. I actually needed to ask you because I'm like, oh, do you want to do a Facebook group again for it? Because I'm going to do a new series this summer. We're going through all kinds of stuff. So that's exciting. Yeah. But then so many of the messages and things that I get are from moms in various different situations, that have things they're going through and stuff that's difficult because life is hard, and all of the different things. And so I thought how cool it would be this month to just have mom conversations, like I know there's so many questions that people either don't ask because you just like, you feel weird asking, sometimes they're like really personal questions. So you feel weird to just like ask someone, like, hey, what do you do? But that's kind of the cool thing about the internet, because people are sending in messages kind of anonymously. They feel comfortable to just kind of ask whatever they want to ask. Cause I don't know you, you don't know me, I'm not going to run into you in my inner circle. So I can just ask whatever I want to ask. And so I was so excited to, I think that God gives each of us whatever walk in our life that we have, right? Whatever that might be. And we go through these experiences, whether we do good with them or bad with them, right? We can take all of these experiences, all of these things that we go through, these lessons that we learn, and we can use them to the glory of God's name. So again, whether it's going, hey, I did a really bad job with this, don't follow that example, right? Or, hey, this is really good, and this is information I can share. We've been doing in the collective, we've been doing the biblical parenting series. So we've been looking at different examples in scripture, mainly ones that we want to copy. We want to do what they did, but then some that like, stay away from that, right? Don't do it like they did it. And so I think there's so much wisdom. So all of the moms that I have asked to do this with me this month, I feel like are kind of in different areas or kind of in different seasons of just motherhood in general. And so I thought that would work out really well, just some that are, kind of all across the spectrum to a degree to kind of talk to. So all of that intro to say that obviously you are number one to go. Happy, Mother's Day again, a day late, but
I'm glad you had your Mother's Day today. So I'm glad you had a special day, even though it was sweet of you. You shared it with your mother-in-law, and I know that she appreciated that.
Yeah, and her birthday falls on Mother's Day too, my mother-in-law. So yesterday was all about her. We did all of her stuff, and which meant it was very, very busy for me. So the kids all said, hey, Mom, tomorrow can be your Mother's Day. I said, okay, that works for me.
That works very well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess we'll go ahead if you want to. I think most people who are watching have probably seen you on various different things I've kind of forced you to come do with me. But if you just want to introduce yourself real quick, give us a little rundown of who you are, especially, tell us about your children, who you are, right? I'm assuming you're a mom, obviously. So you give me the little rundown. Who are you? Are you my mother?
I don't know. Are you? Yes, I am your mother, Heidi. So I am Heidi's mother. I am also the mother to her brothers. They're twins, fraternal twins, Alan and Larkin. And they're going to be 30 this year.
They're getting so old.
I know. And Heidi was like 5.5 when I had them. So that, oh
makes me even older. Yes.
Even older. So Heidi and I raised the twins by ourselves. I was a single mom. Though I always stayed friends with their dad. We we always did holidays together and all that kind of thing. But so I stayed a single mom for 17 years. And I always thought that was a great time because the Lord just drew me closer and closer to him. So I really appreciated that time. I was not looking, then the Lord brought somebody else in my life, and here we are now. And I'm loving that too. I am also the grandma of 4 beautiful children that are the light of my life. Plus I have one more grandson on my husband's side that we spend a lot of time with. So I just love being a grandma. I'm obviously way better at being a grandmother than I was a mom, because a mom, when you're a single parent, you don't get to have good cop, bad cop. You're just always the bad cop, because you're the one that has to say and no and not happening. And it gets old. I really wish.
Favorite words. I thought you love telling us no, not happening.
Well, it gets really tired. It gets really tiresome. Let me tell you. You don't want to always be the bad parent, but you feel like if you don't rein everybody in, it's more chaos than anybody could handle. Not that did well, but I have a few friends. I have one in particular that I wish I'd been able to spend more time with so I could understand how she did it and did it so well. But anyway, but I did enjoy those years alone, so that was okay. I moved to Tennessee. My dad and my mom and stepdad moved here as well, but both my parents have passed away. So I still have my stepdad. He's only like 4 houses over this little hill over here. Not that you could really see it, but I just want to show you really quick because it is beautiful here.
So pretty.
And this is my view every day. Isn't that just gorgeous? See? I know.
I love it.
I love it. And my poor little what do you call it? My poor little dogwood didn't do so well. He got a little rained on the last few days, so there went all my beautiful flowers. But that's okay. My flower beds are getting ready to bloom, so that's okay.
So if everybody's wondering where all of my plantness comes from, actually it's my mama and my dad are both plant people. So if anybody's wondering why Heidi always has all the plant things, you obviously can see who's to blame.
That's easy. And your grandma Pat was your dad's mom. She really was really into plants. So she kind of got me started. And at one time
pretty much genetic at this point.
Because I had like 100 plants in the house when you were little, all kinds of beautiful plants. And I washed them all the leaves. Anyway, so that's me.
Well, that was funny because when Dad was in the hospital a few years back on the phone, I'm asking him, is there anything you need? And he goes, the plants, they've got to go water the plants. He's been working on these trees. And he's like, my trees have got to be watered. And I'm like, oh my goodness, I love it.
So yes, you can buy it definitely. Genetically. There you go.
Yeah.
No escaping the plant syndrome.
Sorry.
Yeah. But and now I just work with you and your homeschool group, which I love. It has brought me out of my depression after losing mom and just sitting around doing nothing for 2 years. And but working with all these great kids has been just really a lifesaver. So as much as I say you push me into it, I do appreciate it. So thank you.
Well, you saved my life by keeping my kids very, very busy with all of the fun things you're doing with them. So I thank you far more. I promise you.
Well, trust me, Heidi has to work for it too. She's worked really hard at all the stuff I throw at her. So we're a good team, I think. Yeah,
I think so.
I think so too.
So you became a mom at what age?
I was 21. Yes. Stop and think. So I was 21 when I became a mom with you. Mm-hmm. And then I had the boys, 5 years later.
Yeah. Did you always think you would be a mom? Was that something you thought about a lot, like as a kid, younger person? Like, was that something that you like looked up to? You know how you see some kids and they, you just know they just want to be moms. That's something they're always thinking about, looking forward to. Was that you, or no, kind of wasn't in the cards? Didn't really think about it?
No, I really wanted to be a stay-at-home mom that just raised her children and took care of the home and took care of a husband and, and did all the mommy things. I always wanted to do that. Even though I was a little, just had my own things happen to me as a kid. So it kind of made me a little hesitant to be a mom. But at the same time, when I started walking with the Lord really young, and then especially through high school, I just knew I wanted to do what he wanted me to do. And I kind of saw myself as the Sunday school mama and, just being at home. And unfortunately, that's not how it worked out. So, but that's
not quite how it went.
Did not. So we went through a few years where I struggled when Heidi and I were on our own. And when I realized that I couldn't pay rent or even make sure we had food, at one point I didn't even eat. And so Heidi did. I got really sick when she was a baby. And it was really just because we didn't have money to pay for food and gas to get to work. So you just, luckily my aunt and uncle took Heidi in during the day while I worked. And so she always had all of her meals. And then if I got off at a certain time, I could have dinner with him. But I never told anybody really, I'd take like a can of tuna and I'd eat, those little cans. I'd eat half one day and half the other day. And
tuna on toast.
I was skinny. I weighed like 105 pounds.
It's like, how do you stay so fit? I don't eat. Fantastic.
And I never thought much about it. I really never, I didn't know at that time that I was a type 1 diabetic or becoming one, and I had celiac disease by then. But I didn't know it. I just knew I was anemic, but I didn't know. I just figured because I wasn't eating well. There's so many other things going on, but that's okay. I think when you're kind of in that situation, you just don't complain, because really what good does it do? And you just make the best of it. And, it was what it was. And most of the time it was good, because when I wasn't working, I was home with you, and we had lots of fun when you was little. Unless I, made you mad, I guess, and you pluck all the leaves off my plants. But
yeah, that's a story. That's something that I knew how to get to you. I'm like, fine, I'm going to hit you where it hurts. I'm going to pluck the leaves off your plant.
Oh my gosh. But I knew I had to work, or we wouldn't have. So I finally went to college, is what it just came down to. Especially once I had the boys, it was one thing to work, but once I had the boys, I really had to go to college, or we really would starve.
Yeah.
Because
being a single mom to 3 kids, we were barely, because you and Dad ended up getting married, and we were together for a while, not very long, but for a little while. And then when it was back to just you raising now the 3 of us, when the boys were born, I remember that, when you kind of had that, working at the local grocery store isn't going to take care of it. We're barely getting by it just being me and you, let alone with the 2 boys now. You've got to do something. And you worked college. I mean, I feel like you were in college our whole life. It seemed
all
like
through elementary school. It did. Well, when you don't prepare in high school to go to college, you have to I spent 2 extra years just doing all the prerequisites.
Yeah.
But college was
a lot of work.
Well, in our family, school was not important. Neither of my parents finished school. My dad only got a GED because he was in the service.
Yeah.
And there was just never a thought.
No one in our family goes to college, let alone really has a job that would require you to go to college.
Or even graduate. Nobody graduated. I mean, most people didn't even graduate, except for us girls.
Really nobody.
High school. So it was, and I'm talking like my whole family, I mean, on my dad's side family.
Yeah.
Even kind of on my mom's side. So if school was never, but my family was really old, and they came from the Midwest where, you just got a job when you were young and went from there. And of course, by the time I really started going to school was when all of a sudden everybody wanted you to have a degree. If you want to work here, you know, you had something. So that's what I did. So, and we had fun. I would take these guys to school one at a time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And my teachers and my classmates thought that was really cool. So we had fun, but that was only for a little bit. It was really hard, to be honest. It really sucked because I
remember you were never home. And this is, I tell our kids, I go, guys, this was before cell phones existed. So you, especially when you had to go to San Bernardino, like you were hours away with like no way to communicate with you. You left in the morning, like when we all were getting ready for school, and after school we'd come home. I'd make the boys dinner. We'd do all the things that needed to be done, and then we'd see you later that evening. Like that's just how it worked. I mean, there was no other way around it. And I know our kids, they're like, so what would you do if you needed to ask her something? I'm like, you don't get to just ask something or deal with it. You have to figure it out and make things happen, you know. But I remember too, like, you know, when you were taking Spanish and like quizzing you with your flashcards you had on all your little rings, you know, and I'm like, that's how I learned Spanish, because I was quizzing you, so I needed to know what we were saying and, you know, doing the different stuff. And gosh, late nights of you up writing papers and having to print them out and, you know, all of those things,
or spending the night at Margot's house so she could help me write my paper. We type it up all night long, and you all sleep on the couch or with the other kids. Yeah. It was really tough because I was not school minded, and I really didn't have any study habits because I didn't never learn how to study. So luckily I met some great people, several ladies that we just became a close knit group, and we all worked together to get through, you know, college and then the university.
But we literally did life together with these people that you were in school with. I mean, we did, like those that had kids, all us kids hung out, and you guys did school. I mean, but it was literally like a family affair, you know, everybody. That's just what we did for years.
Well, you cannot, I mean, we were very lucky. Now I'll tell you, a lot of people, and I felt really bad. I know there's some in your church that I have talked to, and, you know, we were blessed, Heidi. We had Uncle Brad and Aunt Myrna, my mom and my stepdad and my dad and my grandparents. We had a lot of family around us. So they were able to, you know, do things with the kids or you know, they would, the kids could go stay with them if I had to go go to school. Even your dad was a little ways away, but there were times when I really had to go and do things, and he would step up and he would have you guys. I mean, so we were blessed. A lot of families don't have that. And
okay, brief interruption. What were you saying before the kids all came out and lost their marbles?
I don't
know. We had family though that did step in and helped, I think is what you're talking about, because there were so many things. Like, we never had money. We never had, I mean, we always were skating by, you know, the skin of our teeth, you trying to make ends meet and make things happen. You know, we went between.
We lived on less. We got like $597. That's what we lived on. That paid our rent, electric. I think we had gas, and then anything, you know, so it paid all the bills. And then whatever was left over was, you know, like food or gas in the car.
Yeah. And it's funny, you know, thinking back, you know, our car was always breaking down or barely making it places, you know, and it just, you're thinking of like different things where it's like, I know that we didn't have, you know, I mean, honestly, we didn't have a lot of things that most people would deem necessities, but, you know, we didn't.
But you guys never, but
we did it. We did it. No. And I'm so thankful for that, because, you know, it's so funny. You know, I think of, we had the family, like my aunt and uncle and grandparents and things like that we got to do fun things. We went camping, we went places, we did things, you know, we had that. They would make sure that we had clothes, that if we wanted to play a sport or, you know, I did cheerleading or different things, that like we had the ability to go do those things. So it's like, I think it's a very neat setup, because while I know that we never like had money or had things, like we always still had what we needed, and it didn't matter. Who cares, And so you did such a good, like, I know that we didn't have anything, but even thinking back at different things, like I can remember some funny stories where it was like, oh man, like cars broken down, we don't, whatever, different things. But like at the same time, it wasn't, you never raised us with you having the attitude of, sorry, what, you never made a big deal that we were like suffering because we didn't have these things, you know what I mean? Where I feel like it's hard because so many times, that's what people will focus on, is that you don't have this, you don't have that. And that was never your kind of attitude or your way about it. We made do. And if we got to go to McDonald's, we get one Happy Meal and everybody's going to share it. And,
All right. It's on here now.
Oh, hold on. I dropped my earphone.
There we go.
Now I can hear you.
How about now?
I hear you now. I don't know what happened.
Oh my gosh. I was even saying.
That's so funny. Okay, well, okay. But I was going to say that
yes.
But there's so many things that I notice now that I do with the kids, that with my kids, that, it's like, I'm thankful that we always had that way of going about it, though, that we had to be so frugal, in what we did. But I love that now because I think I went through a period, especially when we first had Travis, where I wanted him to have everything, right? Everything that I didn't get to have. I want to make sure that was something that just bothered me. I'm like, I'm going to make sure he has everything. And then it was like, this is really dumb. This is such a stupid way to do this. Like, never mind. I'm going to go back to like what I know and what works. And I'm not saying I get it right all the time.
None
of us do, but yet I'm so thankful that, we never, but I also have never been one to get hung up on the things that I don't have. It's like, yeah, you have it, you don't have it. Who cares?
Yeah.
The sun still rises and then it sets and you continue on. Like, who cares?
Well, I'll never forget. I remember when we lived in the apartment, I guess the last apartment before we moved in with Grandma and Grandpa. And I can remember because we lived there for like 6 years, 5 years.
That was the longest we lived anywhere.
I know. But I can remember the Lord. I was in a Bible study and I came home and I was reading and the Lord just really spoke to me. And it's like, I remember the Lord just kind of talking to me about how I will go nowhere in life. And I don't mean like success. I'm talking about I will have no life, seriously, until I put him first. And I can't change who I am until I have a life where he does all the changing, where he has to be the one in charge of my life. And so I don't know if it's because of growing up, we didn't have anything either. And it was a really rough family life for me growing up. So to me, I was just glad we had our own place. To me, I felt so blessed that we were on our own. And the Lord it was, yes, we were short just about every month, but Aunt Myrna was a blessing. Uncle Brad, they would always have us come for dinner. So we're like, yep, you bet, we're coming. And I think Aunt Myrna knew that, but at the same time, she really enjoyed our company.
So apparently if your phone's ringing, it cuts off your microphone. Now we know.
Now we know. Now we know the rest of the story. Okay.
Do you remember what you were saying? No. Okay, that's okay. You know what? But that's why I love these, because these are like real conversations. So like if people came over and we were all hanging out visiting, guess what? Like the kids would interrupt us. You'd have to get up and do something. Your phone would ring. You'd forget what on earth you're saying mid-sentence. It happens.
It happens. Then you're like, okay, well, whatever. We were poor. We grew up. Now everything's good. Actually, it was
fine. It was good then too.
Yeah.
So I guess a couple questions that I want to ask everyone is, what if you could go back, right? So you raised your kids. You just said your youngest are getting ready to turn 30. So you done raised your kids. You've got your grandkids now. If you could, what? You want to see Grandma tomorrow? Yeah. Okay, we'll see what we can do about that, okay? Grandma's coming tomorrow? Okay. So
something about let me go back.
First question I'd ask is, if you could go back, I get, obviously we say that like, no, I wouldn't want to change things because it's what got me to here now or whatever. Like, I don't mean it that way, but if you could go back and thinking of you as a mom, what is something that like you wish you could go back and tell yourself, like, don't do that, right? Hey, don't do that thing. If you could give young, raising your children, word of advice of something that you're like, dang it, I wish I wouldn't have done that. What would something be that you would say?
I think we all know this one, at least my children do, because they've all told me as I got older. I've always been one who, if I just tell you what, because the answer was always, I'm the mom. That's why. I was too busy. And so, I was doing school. I was the mom, the only person that was in charge of all of this chaos. And so I would always just,
It was a lot. It was.
It was a lot. See all my gray hair? I came by that naturally, with the help of 3. But honestly, if I could, the only thing I truly, truly would change is that instead of just had enough and would just say, that's it. I don't want to hear it. I don't care. Go away. Just make it stop. I was always about just make it stop, whatever it took. The one thing that the boys have said, and I don't think Heidi's really said this, but she probably would if she could or would.
If I could.
If I truly would have just sat down and calmed down and then listened, because I don't listen very well. I'm always about, okay, just get it over with, and okay, with that. We go on now. I am really bad.
No, you didn't listen.
But I want them to listen to me, but I really should have been listening to them. There were times I know when I blamed my kids for things when it truly was not your fault, but I just was done. Me,
because you know why? Because Alan, who's the youngest of the 3 of us, was such a stinking whiner, and he knew that you wouldn't listen. I cannot tell you, there's one memory I have specifically that will never leave me. We were upstairs in the hallway of the apartment, and he was being a little whiny baby over something. I had told him to knock it off, and Mom, he starts calling, and I'm like, oh my gosh, would you shush? Like, what is your problem? And right as you came up the stairs, I was not even physically, like, if I stretched my arms, like, I couldn't have even physically touched him. He threw himself to the floor and went, Mom, look what she did to me. And you started yelling at me for shoving my little baby brother to the floor, this poor thing. And I'm like, dude, I can't even physically reach you from where I'm standing. Like, what is wrong with you? And you would hear none of it. And I got in so much trouble for shoving this poor child to the floor. And I'm like, Alan, when she's not looking, you're going to get it, buddy, because you thought that was bad. I watched you throw yourself on the floor. Next time. Because remember, then we go back to that whole, you were in school hours away. We didn't even have cell phones. You just wait. You just wait.
Oh my gosh.
And I bring that up to my brother quite frequently. Don't worry, he gets it too.
Oh, okay. I never heard that story. That's pretty good in 30 years. Now you're telling me. I'm sure I can hear a lot more. I'm sure.
You're like, never mind. I don't want to start the listening thing now. Don't start telling me.
No, but seriously, I think that as a parent, if we don't listen, we're never going to know our children. I mean, truly know them. And I don't like to say this, but what I didn't do well as a parent or a mom, I do way better with my students, I think, because I've learned that there's times when I have a student and I'm thinking,
Olivia,
that child probably needs a good spanking or a timeout. And then I realize that if I, calm down and when I do, I get a hold of that student and we sit and we talk. When I say get a hold of, I meant like call them up. Get a hold of. Well, I get them and we talk. I realize there's always something going on. Well, of course, something's going on. Nobody is normally, I think nobody is normally nuts. Normally. Okay, there's usually something going on in your life. Something happened that moment in the hallway, or even sitting in their desk, something has happened.
Yeah.
So you have to stop and listen. And I've learned to do that a lot better, though I'm not always good at it, because there are times when I just say, okay, well, that's nice, but you need to suck it up and let's get on.
Because in fairness, there are those times when, I know that I have had complimented to me. I think most of the times it's a compliment, at my ability to just push through literally anything and accomplish whatever it is that needs to be done. And I tell them, I go, my mom always told me, ain't no time to cry, ain't no time to fight. Like, come on, let's go. Like, nobody cares what you have to say. So, well, I think maybe we lean too far on the extreme. It's been a good learning process for me as a parent to try to go, hey, I didn't like the way it felt when she didn't want to hear my side of the story, or, it was just too bad, so sad, sucks to be you, who cares, let's move on, we got things to do, and so I try to be conscious of that at least, and to be like, hey, let me hear you out. What I may not get it or whatever, but let me at least hear you out on this, and, and see that. And so, and then I also have to try to be a little more conscious of because I will kind of fall back into that line of just like, nope, who cares? No time. We got to go. Luckily I have a husband who sits there and goes, what are you rushing for? What is your issue right now? The world's going to end if the floors don't get mopped in the next half hour. I think we'll be okay, So luckily I have Brandon to do that. And I'm like, whew, no. But I'm also very thankful that Brandon and I have been together for so long that he knows what you as a mom 20 years ago was, you know what I mean? So he's like, he does that all the time. He goes, okay, Dorothy, enough's enough. I go, shush, I wasn't doing it. He goes, yes, you were. You were doing it exactly.
Well, it's hard when you feel like your life is going 1,000 miles a minute. You really only have so much time in a day to, you don't want your children to live in filth. You still got to have clean clothes. Yeah. I was never one that could ever send kids to school with dirty clothes on, but to me, those were, there were essential things that I think that as a parent, just whether you're the mom or the dad, you have to take care of. You have to take care of your home, and you got to take care that you've got, that you're taking care of your children. Taking care of them don't mean you count them every night and they're in the house. There's way more to it.
Trust me, I hear all about it, because anytime when the girls go over, they go, Nan made us put patches on our pants because we have holes in the pants of our pants. And I was like, because some of us would prefer you not rip up every pair of pants you own.
But I made cute heart patches.
You made awesome patches.
They're so crazy. But I know. Well, I'm glad you can find humor, because I know too that growing up like that was not easy on you or your brothers. And, there's so many things I regret and I wish I could have done different besides just that. But I think listening would definitely be, that would have been a whole different experience for all four of us,
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, especially if we had learned to listen and be honest and not, what do you want to hear, Mom? Okay, I'm just going to say what you want to hear.
I can give you every answer you want to hear. I promise you. I've had jobs before where I've been pulled in and they're like, no employee has ever tested so well in this entrance test. And I go, yeah, because you just have to figure out which answer is the one that the company wants to hear. That's what it is. They don't want to know what your answer is. They want to have the right answer. I just figure out what the answer is you want, and I get that one. Isn't that what everybody does? And apparently it's not what everybody does. I found that out. Like,
something's wrong with this girl. She gets 100% on all her tests.
My mom said if I didn't come home with hundreds, I was in trouble. So that's what I get.
I don't think I said that, but I did say you were going to school every day, sick or not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So on a different note, then, if you thinking back to all of your years of raising us, what is something that when you look back on it, you think back on it, you are so glad you did do?
Oh, I think some of my favorite parts of being a mom that I wish we had done way more was I remember taking those big brown pillows that we had from your dad's house. Remember when he gave me
I
those
love
really
those
big,
pillows.
huge,
Yeah.
yeah, we
The
lay them on
best
the
pillows.
floor. Yeah, they were huge, and all four of us could like lay on them, and we would read stories. I
Yeah.
think that's one of my favorite is just taking the time to just be together. That or having, you know, every night for like a week straight or more, we would play Uno, you know, and you guys like to make Larkin cry. Yeah, I remember that. That was a lot of fun though. You guys were having a blast. But I think just playing the games or even I know you guys all make fun of this, but you know, Friday night or Saturday morning, I loved it when we cleaned
Yes.
the house. But we did it because you guys remember how you had all these chores, and then as soon as you did certain things, you could go to the drawer and you had to pick a, you know, or no, it was a ball or whatever it was, but not a ball, but a bowl, and you had to pick something out of there, and it was always something crazy. We had like all these crazy things that you got to do as a reward, like kiss your sister's big toe. That was always my favorite. And I think Alan liked that one. He thought that was hysterical. So did you. But, you know, but then it was also go to the door and, you know, Aunt Myrna, anybody who had like little McDonald's toys or whatever, Burger King toys, they would shove in that little thing. Plus, everyone's
There was like our prize drawer, like our prize box. Hold on.
Drawer, yeah.
I have a 3-year-old with an issue. What's your issue, sweetie? Now Nan's even ran away. She said, nope, I'm out of here.
I'm coming. I was trying to figure out why my dwarfs are not blooming over on this side of the house. What was wrong with her?
Lily threw her baby shark like toward her, but hit her with it.
Uh-oh.
Hmm.
Taking out the baby, never good.
Yeah.
Or the baby shark, but yeah. Okay, sorry.
No, but you know what's funny though, thinking of that is, although I know that we had, you know, we had a lot of sucky things that just happened over the years, right? There's just a lot of stuff, you know, that, but honestly, when we think back on it, even like me and the boys talking, you know, some of our funnest things are, you know, I remember that record player we had, and we had that Mickey Mouse and Friends, like vinyl record. And remember when we put those different records on and like crank them, and you would like Friday night was like, because you were at school, we were at school, all of the stuff all week long. And you were always like, hey, Friday night, if we stay up late, get everything done, then we can have the weekend, right? To play, to do whatever, not worry about it. And so we'd stay up, turn up, as long as you have a class, we'd turn up the music, we'd clean all night long, get all of the stuff done. You and I usually ended up rearranging furniture, which I still to this day am constantly rearranging my furniture. Drives my husband and everybody crazy.
And in the middle of the night, you cannot walk through our homes.
No,
it's not safe. No.
But then we would. I mean, we know pretty much every musical that's ever existed. I can quote any Disney movie that's ever existed. You know, there's so many different things.
All those, yeah.
Yeah, that while I'm sure we could, you know, sit around and focus on the difficult things or the hard things, the things that sucked, that just weren't fun in general, there are many things, I feel like, you know, over the years where you did take the time to, you know, to do those different things, and just those memories are what, you know, what are still there. So I know for me, that's an encouragement, you know, with life, things get busy, and there's always something that needs to be done, to be clean, to be taken care of, to be, you know, I mean, there's no shortage of those things. I think if we go through my messenger with you, it's always, are you busy or super busy? You know, that's always are you really busy right now? Because it's hard, you know, life is busy and there's a lot to do, but remembering that, like, you know, hey, I only get these kids for so long, and one day they're going to be gone, and my house will be clean, but my house will be empty, you know, and trying to remember that, and to take the time and just say, you know what, sure, let's go play outside. Let's pull out the board games. Let's watch a movie. Let's turn on the music. I don't know, whatever it may be. It doesn't have to be something expensive, doesn't have to be something that takes a bunch of planning, you know, doesn't really have to be
honest. I'll be honest. I think even kids that get all the expensive trips and toys and all that, all that does is put something between you and them.
Yeah.
I mean, it really does. And then the expectation is really there, and you've got to do something better or as well. And then they get in their heads that it has to have a price tag. Yeah. If you're going to be happy, it has to have and it doesn't. And I think
and then you end up just being empty and wishing that the person was there for you at the end of the day, you know?
Yes. And I'll tell you, and I know this has been hard and you guys always give me a hard time, but with you and your brothers, I mean, if you didn't know who God was and didn't know that the importance of having that relationship with Jesus, or that you knew difference between right and wrong, if you did not understand that, oh my gosh, I failed you. I didn't just fail you, I failed the Lord, you know? Yeah. And so that means that I failed. I mean, you know, everybody can get an F in school, but when you get an F in life with your children, to me, that's why I always played the hard part. What are you doing? Well, because I was afraid of my dad. If my dad said stop, I just did, because I was not going there. But my kids were like, okay, Mom, when you're here in front of me, I'll stop. But as soon as I left, it was all chaos, you know.
They were monsters. The boys only, obviously.
Yeah, of course. But see, that's still, if someone just tells you no, not to do it, that's one thing. But if I were to have taught you the difference between doing something and doing something right, something wrong, a whole different, you know, relationship we would have had. So what was I going with that? Old brain just went away. But anyway, I really did forget.
It was going for a minute and now it's gone.
Yeah,
but you made that that really was a focus. And I know, you know, we all joke so much, and we pull out the famous mom line of, in order to be a joke, it has to be funny, you know, because nothing was ever funny. And we're like, why don't you find this funny? And now I'm constantly walking around going, in order to be a joke, it has to be. I'm like, show me biblically why I should laugh at that. Show me. Why is that funny? And then everybody's like, well, dang it. Guess it's not. Never mind.
That's why I can never, you know, Travis and I, a couple years ago, he asked me, he goes, Nan, why don't you think moms and dad and uncles, or why do you always say they're not funny? He goes, I think they're funny. I said, Trav, I'm glad you think they're funny. I said, but here's let me give you my lesson.
I have no humor bone. That's why.
Everybody will tell you, to this day, your dad even said that a while back. He says, oh, I see you're still serious. I take everything seriously. Well, my thing is, there are things that happen that are funny, but if it requires somebody to be put down or said something ugly about them, oh, I was just joking. Well, let me tell you, it's not a joke.
No.
You know, it's not. And if you have nothing nice to say, you really should just, I'm going to say it. I don't know if I could say it. Be quiet. I'll just say be quiet. But you really should. Yeah. And, you know, and we always just, and, you know, I've had families say that, oh, you know, why just talk about my husband that way? But he knows I'm joking. Really? Really? My husband makes me mad sometimes, and my husband can really annoy the heck out of me, but I'm sure I do it way more than he ever does it to me. Well, I don't know. It could be a ton. But the thing is, I do not, I mean, I just won't talk bad about him. And I'll tell you where I got that from. I got that from you, Heidi. I know that things are tough for you and Brendan, but to be honest, I never knew how tough until way later, because you always chose to be a wife. It was God first and then your husband. And you were always supportive. You never let on. You never said anything. And, you know, I took that. I really admire that, because you, first of all, except for Uncle Brad and Aunt Myrna, you really never saw any good marriages. I wish you could have seen more of Uncle Robbie and Aunt Joyce.
I know.
But I'd be, you know, things. And there were a few people in our family that do have really great marriages, but why? And it's the same thing, because they're always uplifting their partner. The husband to the wife to the husband. And they can be having tough times, but you know what? That's between them, and they'll do that on their own and work it out. But if you're sitting there snarling or saying things about them, it's wrong. You know, it really is. Yeah. And so I try to be very careful about that, because usually well, if we are having issues, it's because I'm the one being cranky. And he's just like, hey, whatever. And I'm like, that makes me mad, because if I'm mad, I want somebody to say it's
why
okay.
Are you not upset at this? What is wrong?
I want somebody to be mad with me. I don't know. I can't decide. But anyway, we were talking about being a mom, and I loved
that is so true, because that is something that so often moms do not control their tongues. And so they do kind of spout off about dad in front of the kids. And then that causes, if you said to, okay, you and me and the boys, our dad, you guys divorced when they were you guys divorced right, like at the time that they were born, or right before they were born?
About a year after.
A year after. Yeah. So right in that, the time of the boys being born is when you guys finally split. And you could have said so many things about our dad our whole life, and they were valid factual things, right? That could have been the way you went about it. Well, your dad didn't show up because blah, 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 blah. Your dad, you know what I mean? Like, you could have done that. And I understand as an adult, well, I understood as a kid too, but the very valid reasons of things that you could have been saying, but you didn't. And so what I think as moms, sometimes we don't think much about that, because we go, well, I know my kids love their dad, or I know they know I love him, or whatever. But when you're constantly sowing those seeds to your children against your spouse specifically, let alone anyone else, but your spouse specifically, those are things that go into their little heads. And those are seeds that you plant in them of, well, dad just this and dad just that. You know what I mean? You start sowing those things, and it can be really, really damaging, to kids. One, because kids are smart and they'll play you against each other, and say, oh, well, mom said, they learn, heck, kids learn how to do that enough on their own, right? You don't need to help them out on that.
You need no help. No.
Yeah.
But that's why you do it. But
yeah. There's so much that can be done there that's very difficult.
We saw people all around us divorce, and it was always so nasty, and the kids were always stuck in the center of it, and it was just ugly. And I never understood that, just because your dad and I couldn't make it or get along, or because of the issues, I'll tell you this, it's never one-sided. I don't care how great it all goes. It's just not one-sided. Yes, one person might not have realized what was going on, but it does take two. But at the same time, for whatever reason, if one person decides to leave, then you've got to make the best of it. You are a parent. You still have to, especially when children are. And I'm sorry, you have to learn to forgive your like, for me, I had to learn to just forgive your dad and move on. But how do people do it without the Lord? I don't know, because Christ is the one. And I went to counseling too. And I had a great counselor. Sherry was amazing. And I was able to say, and really truly forgive him and learn to be his friend. We were always great friends anyway, so that was kind of easy, to be honest. And
I'd much rather be your friend than your wife. This is the easy part of the job.
I really enjoyed that for all these 36 years. Yeah. The wife part was tough, but the friend was really good. That was good.
But really, and I know I've said this to you before, but not that I would ever encourage anyone to seek divorce, obviously, but there's many that are either already in that situation, or they truly had no choice, or whatever the reason is that gets you there. You and dad did such a great job at that, because other than dad talking about how not funny you are, I can't really think of, it's not, he would never say anything bad about you. He always sung your praises, except for, you were the mean, strict one, and he was the ha-ha funny one.
But Disneyland, I was Fort Knox. Yeah,
exactly. But we all ha laughed, but truly, it was never anything, mean or malicious or anything like that, but just your ability to get together, come together, it never was, I don't know, it never really was difficult for us. The boys went through phases, where, you know, why isn't my dad here? You know, I mean, we had our hardships, definitely. I mean, divorce is always difficult, but you guys did such, it is, but you guys did such a good job with it. I mean, I remember when Brandon and I started dating, because I was 14 when we started dating, and I remember trying to explain all of our family dynamics to him. And for him, his family background is very different. We're similar in some ways, but very different in many ways. And he was just so dumbfounded at how this whole thing in our family works. He's like, so wait a second. He's like, they got a divorce, but they still are hanging out. We're going to Disneyland together next week. Like, he was so mind blown by all of this. He's like, this is seriously how all of this works. And I'm like, yeah, that's how it's always worked. Like, why would it be weird? You know, and I'm like, yeah, they were doing this the other day or whatever. And I don't know, he just always was so like, that's not normal. And I'm like, oh, it isn't? I didn't know that, because this is how we've done everything. I didn't know that wasn't normal, whatever that is, you know, but if that's normal, I'll take how you guys did it, because that worked out far better for us kids, I think, than what you see most kids having to go through, you know, these days. And I understand that that's not possible in every situation necessarily, but just forgiving and striving to find a common ground, a friendship, even if you can. And, you know, you may not necessarily be married anymore, but you still, by your godly conduct, can have an impact on that person, you know, and the difference that makes for the entire family, even if the family looks different than it did, you know.
That is very true. That's a good way to put that too, you know.
But I think you guys just did such a good job, right? We can sit here and go, sure, you know, I know you and I have had that conversation. Maybe if I would have trusted God more and just stayed with your dad, you know, what, I mean, so sure, we could play that game all day long of, you know, what if we did this, or what if you did that? And what, okay, that's fine. I mean, there's nothing we can do about it, so why waste our time? But looking at what did happen, taking the facts at hand, I think you guys did a really good job. And I can only, now being a mom and being married and all, like, I can only imagine, because sometimes, you know, we'll think of these different things. I'm like, Brandon, I like to think that I am a mature Christian woman. If you pulled that, oh my gosh, you guys would question my salvation. Like, I don't think I could be as calm and put together about some of these things as I see some friends, you know, being, and I'm like, you'd think I was a complete unbeliever real quick at how I think I'd respond to some of these circumstances. But, you know, so I think of these things and I'm like, gosh, that's hard, you know. I mean, there's so many moving pieces, but you do think back on some of these things and I'm like, good job, Mom, because I don't know. I think I would have been a lot meaner.
Well, you know, I think if I could ever impart anything to anybody, it's the same thing the Lord says, you know, and really it all boils down to whether you stay married or they decide to leave. No, it doesn't matter. Whatever it is, you have got to forgive them. And I don't mean, first of all, you have to forgive because the Lord says so. He doesn't say if you feel like it. Yeah. So
he says, do you want forgiveness? Okay, give it.
That's right. You have to. And so it is hard. And yeah, I've talked to a few people that I know that have gone through some pretty tough stuff. But you know what? You still have to forgive them. And you have to love them. And that's how you start forgiving them. And I don't mean love them in a relationship way. You love them with God's love. You pray for them. You just keep finding all the ways that you can find something positive. And then that's what you stick to. But you have, and that will help you forgive them, and not just forgive, but then to move on. And if you stay angry because whatever they did to you, or you think they did to you, or that they've done to your children, you have to just forgive, and you have to love them, and you have to go on. Because if you don't, you're not just, it's one thing to ruin your own life, but now you're going to ruin your children's life, and you will ruin it. You will. Yeah. I've seen children. I see it all the time. I have had hundreds of children in my own classrooms through the years. I've seen it in the hallways. I've seen it, you know, it's in my family. It's awful. And you know what? And then you deserve your just rewards from the Lord. Yeah. You're going to, because you know what? Those children of yours, they are your reward. Yeah. So are you going to ruin them? Are you going to are you going to really ruin your own children because you're too immature with the Lord to understand the importance when he says that we can have forgiveness, but we have to also give forgiveness. You can't stay a baby in Christ forever. Yeah. And if you want your children to grow and know the Lord, you gotta grow and know. Get over it. And
get over it and get it done.
Right, get it done. And what do you got to get done? You got to raise those babies. Those babies, they are what matters. They are the ones that the Lord has entrusted you with, and they really are your reward. And so you need to treat them that way. And I wish I had, yeah. You know,
Mom, I don't know if
what.
Oh no, you go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, life will get crazy and you are going to blow it big time 1,000 times over. But you have, I read today, I'm reading your Zechariah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. And I love that, you know. Oh, shoot. What did he say? It says, 1:3. What is that? Come on, Heidi.
I don't have my Bible in front of me. I don't know. It was in the Zechariah in the study packet. Okay. She'll get it. Should have known not to forget our Bibles when we sat down.
See, it really is. Right here. See, I started this morning like, you know, Heidi keeps flashing up in my HMH, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to sit down and start reading this because I haven't had a study for a while, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to start on Zechariah, and the first thing it says is, Zechariah 1:3 says, because I have one of those Bibles that have the pretty writing anyway. Yeah. I open it and it says, return to me and I will return to you, says the Lord of the heavenly armies. And I'm like, yes, Lord, I'm coming.
I'm right here. Sorry, I'm late.
I hear, Lord. Take me.
So, count me in the attendance today.
That's right. So anyway.
That's awesome. Yeah. No, I was going to say that I don't know if you and I would make the best motivational speaker team or the worst, considering our answer is always, get over it and keep going, it'll be fine.
But in the end, you really do. Yeah. You have to get over it.
There is an honest truth to it, okay?
There is. But there is a way in which to do it. And the only way you're going to do it is take it every morning to the Lord. Take his word and believe it and know that he is God, like he says he is, and that he will. And as the days go on, you know, it will work.
But the rubber has to meet the road, right? You have to trust him. You have to have faith. You have to give it to him. Like if you never do those things and say, okay, I'm just going to forgive. I'm just going to trust. I'm just going to let go. I'm just going to let it happen. You know, I mean, that's something that I wish I could find the way to convey to people better. Cause it's, you know, people ask us that question. Well, how did you guys repair this with your marriage? How do you do this with your kids? I actually had this conversation with family yesterday. How do you, go about, in ministry and doing this and with the kids and all the things? And I go, well, I look at scripture to see what I need to be doing. And then I give it to God and I trust that he's got it. And I don't even think about it. I don't worry about it. I don't stress over it. I don't, over obsess it. I go, okay, Lord, I'll walk on my path and I trust you that you've got it all. I mean, but at some point we have to do that, right? We can't just talk about how great it is. You got to do it.
Well, and I think that comes as you're more of a mature, when you're a baby Christian, it talks about the different stages of being, of having that relationship with him. You don't have to wait like, your toddler years and then your little kid years. That's not how that works. If you sit yourself down and you open that Bible and you're in it all day long, but it's not just reading the Bible, it's digging into the Bible. And then it's like, okay, Lord, it's prayer time. Your prayer time is so important because that's your time to not just talk to the Lord and say, good grief, what the heck are you thinking? I can't believe my life is like this. What am I going to do? God's going to tell you, okay, God's going to say, here it comes. Shut up, be still, and I will tell you what to do.
Yeah.
And he'll tell you through his word. He will bring you to it and he will open your eyes and he will say, this is what I want you to do. And most of the time you'll be thinking, are you nuts? And then
that's not the answer I wanted. Can we, like a magic 8 ball? You're like, can I flip it over again and get a different
answer? Try another one. How about here? Oh Lord, that's even worse. Wait a minute. How about
not quite how that works.
No, but I'm telling you this, it could be hard and it would seem like, are you asking, a husband who does things to his wife that's, that just breaks her heart. I mean, literally. And then leaves. And I'm not just saying that that's not what happened in ours. I mean, I've seen this over and over.
Yeah.
But yet, when you open your Bible and the Lord says, love him. I already tried that, Lord. It did not work.
I did my one and done. Thanks.
I tried, but no, the Lord says, love him. So then you're like, okay, but I can't. And the Lord said, no, now you got to forgive him. Well, okay. But it's all little steps, but you grow as a Christian. But if you really want to be able to have a godly happiness in your life, come from a godly place where inside life is chaotic and ugly, you have got to ask the Lord to truly take over your life. And yes, he doesn't say, and he wants it all at once. And you can give more and more as you grow as a Christian. But at first, it's one little piece at a time. A piece at a time. You really will. Eventually, like Johnny Cash, you will have that beautiful Cadillac, but it's going to come one piece at a time or 9 volts, But you're going to get it through reading your Bible, and not just reading, but you've got to listen to the Lord.
Well, because we have to grow in our spiritual maturity, which we do through our growth in biblical literacy, right? So I'm not going to give my newborn a steak. But my 17-year-old son is going to die if I only am feeding him bottles each day, right? So my 17-year-old is going, yes, please give me the steak. Like, I'm starving, right? A little bottle of milk isn't going to do it. But my newborn's going to choke to death, if I'm trying to cram a steak down her mouth. But the problem is that we grow, and it can be, especially with life being busy and being overwhelmed and all of the things, you're raising the kids and doing all of the stuff. But it's like, but if you're not growing in your spiritual maturity through your biblical literacy, you're not going to be there to properly feed your children. And then what ends up happening is you become malnourished because you're now the, adult Christian that's still over there drinking the spiritual milk and not diving any deeper into anything. And your children are going to suffer because of that. We as parents, we don't want our children to suffer, of course. And so, so quick we see, I'll give them the food instead of me eating it. I won't go and do these things that I'd like to do because I'm going to provide clothing for my children, right? I tell the kids all the time, I'm like, yeah, we got our kids a trampoline this year. I go, I would have much rather spent that money on something I actually kind of enjoy the trampoline, so it's fun. But, it's like, I could have much rather spent the money on something that I want that only serves me, but I'm happy to do it to serve you. But then we don't think about that when it comes to their spiritual well-being. And that's the most important thing over food, clothing, shelter, anything, right? For our children to know the Lord, that's what lasts for the eternal. And so we want to make sure I think it's so important to make sure that we don't neglect that by, I'm just so busy, so I don't have time to dig into the word. I don't have time to study. I don't have time to understand these things. And then we don't realize that our children's spiritual lives then suffer because of that. Not saying that they'll never stand a chance, because that's not true either, but they're going to suffer in that, where the more that you grow, the more that you can then teach and share with your children, and then the more that they will grow spiritually. And who wouldn't want that?
I know. Exactly. Yeah.
I thank you so much for doing this with me. Is there anything else that you would want to say to all of the mamas watching here today, or whatever day it is they end up watching this?
For whenever. No, I can't think of anything. I think if you just honestly is, on the days when life just seems really tough, then stop and sit on the floor with your babies, play a game, read a book, cuddle, take a nap, watch a movie. It doesn't matter. Because what are the things, I should ask you, as a parent, what are some of the things that truly, as a mom, that when you were younger, that you enjoyed as a child, being the child of a single mom? I mean, what are some things we did that you enjoyed?
I remember you had that, now I guess they're called like gamer rocker chairs or whatever, but you had that rocker. Remember that rocker chair?
Yes, I do. Yeah.
I learned not to put my fingers under it because they got smushed a few times. I remember that.
Yes.
But we would sit on that chair and listen to like the Judds. Remember we had the Judds cassette tape, and we loved listening to the Judds and singing the songs, but things like sitting on the rocker, singing to the Judds. literally we would watch things like The King and I, and you and the boys could belt out every single song like perfection, no issue.
And the Sound of Music.
Sound of Music. I mean, we can go all day with this game. And then things like going for our car rides, and we had the different, we had like the Beauty and the Beast soundtrack, the Little Mermaid soundtrack. We had like different soundtracks, and we would just sing, and we would play different games. But it was just like little things like that usually revolved around either singing songs. Okay, maybe it all revolved around music now that I'm thinking about, because we watched all the musicals, we do all the songs. But it was things like that when I think back, we had so much fun. And there's some of my favorite things to do with my kids now that we do that. You know, we have our same time every day where we put on music and we sing while we're doing whatever we're doing. I love going through different musicals that we watched and watching them with the girls. And the teenage boy gives me a little bit of an eye roll with some of them, but we have other movies that he likes. But just little things like that where I just sit down and I try to make sure my phone's put away and it's just us hanging out doing whatever. That's just simple. And it's just the little things like that I do. I really do remember so much of. And those are, for the boys too, because when we all are talking about it, those are always the things that we go back to. We're like, oh yeah, this or that, or whatever. And so I really do, I do appreciate that. And I know that things were hard, but you did the best with what you had. And it doesn't mean that everything was perfect. It doesn't mean that, everything was whatever, but that's what life is. And I think that through, even becoming an adult and us talking about some of these different things, it's just such an encouragement to me to see you and, everything you went through. And yet you did what, at the time was the best of, what you had before you. But then even in the things that, you didn't do that well with, to be like, man, that really sucks. I wish I would have done this differently. But there's something so nice to hear, yeah, Mom, that really stunk when you didn't want to listen to me tell you that it was Alan who threw himself on the floor, not me who shoved him. Why would I shove him to the ground? I mean, I did after you left the next day, but
because I wouldn't be surprised.
But having that conversation and going through that now, hold on, I'm going to take this out because the baby cannot, keep calling her the baby, and Olivia really isn't a baby anymore. But we still just call her the baby all the time until people go, oh my gosh, you have a baby? And I'm like, well, she's 3. She's not really a baby, but
poor baby. She just always,
the baby couldn't get through the gate. So I was trying to save her life. But no, I really do appreciate. You want to get dressed? Okay, go get dressed. Okay, you want to finish this video up with me and Nan real quick? Do you want to come say hi to Nan and we'll finish this video? Oh no, okay, she doesn't want to.
Okay, bye. All right.
Like, no,
well, thanks for
I appreciate it, and thank you for coming on and sharing. And I'm sure that there's many others that will be encouraged, by it. And there's just so much. I don't know. I just think these conversations are cool because there's so much we can learn from one another as moms, as we go through the things.
Yeah, I think so too. So I'm looking forward to seeing all the rest of who you video with too.
I'm excited. She just went inside, Daddy. Daddy just came out of the other door as Olivia went into this door. He's like, where? She was just right.
But I could hear her.
Yeah. All right. Well, I guess I have lost my recording time as they are all, what's wrong? You don't know what's wrong, do you? Okay.
Did she get a long nap? Probably not.
She did have a good nap, so I don't really know what our issue is today. But we're not doing well over here.
Well, Bun, I hope you feel better.
Thank you, Nan. She's just crying in my lap.
Poor baby.
For really no reason. It's okay. Well, thank you so much for doing this with me. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Yes. And then you get a watch. So every Tuesday you can tune in throughout the rest of the month and see all the other couple mamas that I have to come on and do this. I'm excited.
Me too. And now you know how to do it. So it works pretty good. Uh-oh.
Hopefully it's all working okay.
Maybe we'll
I call you later and say, hey, remember everything you just said? Say it again.
Let's hope not.
Let's hope
I
not.
won't remember what I said. But it was nice to sit outside. I haven't been outside in a while, so this was kind of nice.
We sat outside all day yesterday visiting with our company, and I was like, I need to restructure my days. I don't know how I need to do it, but so that at least for this set amount of time, like I need to be just outside because it's so beautiful right now. I'm like, yep, I need to come out. That's why I got my hammock chair out and I'm put my bug spray on so I'm not getting eaten alive by the mosquitoes, and I'm just going to come. So I think I'm going to go get Olivia situated, and then I'm going to go sit. I'm not getting in the pool because it's freezing cold, but I'm going to sit by the pool and enjoy.